Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Almost out. I'll be back.
You've been back enough. I'll be back.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show for the 18th of August 2014. We are now officially into our fourth year of running as we celebrated our 3 years last week.
Yep.
So we're with you for the next 90 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer because we've got quite a bit of a packed show, which we'll go through and have a look at. Some movie news, the UK box office top 10, some cinema releases, which include these movies.
On a Monday. We're on a Monday.
Yeah.
We're actually on a Monday. This really is Monday, isn't it?
And we will be next Monday as well, which we said.
I know.
Yeah.
Shock.
It's 2 weeks running on a Monday.
Can we make it 3? That's asking for too much, though.
You just jinxed it, though.
I know, but it's still asking for too much. 3 Mondays in a row. Shocking. But up for review this week is Simon Pegg's latest comedy, drama, film, Hector and the Search for Happiness. Now, you can't say this next movie is a drama. Action, overblown movie with the Expendables 3. We have The Rover, Blood Ties in the Congress.
After which we'll take a little break, then we'll go and have a look at the UK DVD and Blu-ray top 10 in the home releases section, and then look at these home releases.
A lot on offer. We have The Love Punch, Captain America the Winter Soldier, A New York Winter's Tale, The Last Days on Mars, Tracks, The Quiet Ones, Killing Season, Lizzie Borden Took an Axe, and The Flowers of War.
Yep. Before all that, though, I'm going to firstly go back and introduce myself. I'm Andrew.
And I'm here on a Monday, but I'm Stuart also.
Get over it. Do you want me to actually come there and slap you and sort of bring you around a bit?
Good luck, because then the show will be on a Tuesday instead, because it would take you time to get down here.
So, if you are listening to us live, you can join us in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. There is a little chat
on a
icon
Monday?
On the Spreaker website. Yeah, listening to us live on a Monday. You're gonna just wear that out until the end of the show.
No, I think I'm finished. I might have one more somewhere, but I think I'm finished for now.
Save it for the second half.
I will.
You can join us in the bottom right hand corner. You can also email us mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com, and also remember you can check out mondaymovieshow.co.uk. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/mondaymovieshow, and also on Twitter @mondaymovieshow. So let's get going into this week's show with, unfortunately, a bit of sad news. A couple of big sad pieces of news at the start. First of all, sad news that Robin Williams has died at the age of 63. Marion County Sheriffs announced the news that the award-winning actor and comedian committed suicide and his body was discovered last Monday. Williams' publicist stated that he had been struggling with depression as of late and recently entered a 12-step rehab for drug abuse. Further details were released days later by his wife, who announced that Williams had also been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Williams is best known for comedic roles, but was nominated for Best Actor in movies Good Morning Vietnam, Dead Poets Society, and The Fisher King, and won Best Supporting Actor in drama Good Will Hunting.
Yeah, it's really sad news. When it's that kind of news that when you do hear it first hand, you think, is this a joke? Because you hear a lot of news about big actors like Robin Williams passing away, and you do instantly think, is this a joke? But when you find out that more and more websites are reporting on it and more news has come out of it, then you realise this is not a joke. This is actually real. And Robin Williams was a really good actor. He proved that he could actually do multiple roles, going from comedy, from things like TV series like Mork and Mindy and Mrs. Doubtfire, which I love Mrs. Doubtfire, I also love Mork and Mindy, to very serious roles in movies like 1 Hour Photo, which is a really creepy movie. Where he played a guy who stalked somebody. So he had a breadth of and depth of roles that he could play, and he's definitely sorely missed.
Yeah, and the thing is, well, he was. A lot of people do remember him for his comedy roles, but I really think he was a great. Because there's that thing of comedians can do really good serious roles as well. I mean, one of my favourite roles of his was in Insomnia, Christopher Nolan's remake of the. I think it was Swedish film. Or Iceland, I'm not sure, but he played a villain in that, and he played a very disturbing character, but very seriously, not comedic at all, and it was really, really good performance. So it's a shame that he's gone, and but in such a way as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Further sad news, unfortunately, of another death. This time of Lauren Bacall, who died on Tuesday of a suspected stroke. She was aged 89. The actress started out her career with Humphrey Bogart in To Have and Have Not. Sorry, what's wrong with me today? The actress received her only Academy Award nomination, Best Supporting Actress, in 1997 in The Mirror Has Two Faces, but did not receive the award. She did receive an honorary award from the Academy in 2010, though, in recognition of her central place in the golden age of motion pictures and a career that spanned over 50 years.
Yeah, again, like Andy said, classic actress. She again will be missed. If you grew up, which I grew up on a lot of 50s and 60s things, so I grew up on a lot of Lauren Bacall's early films. She was more known for seething characters in a way, and more straightforward characters in the films that she's done, and she had a air of grace when she was on the screen. She was one of those scream queens. And so, she will definitely be missed. Much more older than Robin Williams in this case, but still, not very nice to actually see her pass away.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, at least 89 as well. It's not a short life, so she did get a good run out of her life, and also, as I say, over 50 years in acting, which is impressive.
Exactly.
So it's a shame to see her go as well. Moving on to more regular news. The sequel to Gareth Edwards' Godzilla has been moved up to June 8, 2018, brought forward from its November date, which will now be filled by the King Kong prequel, Skull Island.
I don't know what more I can say. More Godzilla. I really do hope that he brings it a little bit more to the table, with obviously because he's going to have Rodan and Mothra and some of the more iconic characters that have gone up against Godzilla in the years and in the kaiju movies of Japan's from the 50s upwards. So I really hope that adds more flesh to the story, and we actually see a little bit more of Godzilla than we did in the reboot of it, because at times that film was just lacking on practically anything decent. It just had a brilliant start, but it went a bit downhill from there on in. I still trust him as a director, because I know that he can handle this kind of thing.
Yeah, he is really good at that. I mean, the thing I would say is, if he has him returning, because I don't know if he will or not, but I would like, if they do have Aaron Taylor-Johnson returning, to have him in a smaller role and not have him so much, because the film, I thought, focused on him a bit too much.
Yeah, he's not a very strong leading actor, to be honest.
Brian
Cranston.
I look forward to seeing what he's going to do in Avengers, because he plays a character in Avengers: Age of Ultron. So,
yeah, but when you're going up against somebody like Bryan Cranston, then you're going to be swallowed. So Elizabeth Olsen as well. She's a really good actress. She was a really good actress. She's chosen some really bad roles, to be honest, and her character in that was just very one-dimensional. It wasn't written very well at all. Suffered from beerism when it comes to female characters. Not the fact that it was sexist, it was just because the character was flat. And I don't think Beer can direct or write a good female role. And unfortunately for Olsen's character in Godzilla, theirs was exactly the same. It was a bit flat.
Yeah. Okay, on to what news have you got there?
Warner Brothers have confirmed that they have pushed back the release of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. from its January release date to August 2015. No reason was given on the delay. It's going to be directed by Guy Ritchie, and it'll star Henry Cavill and Armie Hammer.
I mean, I don't know why, but it does seem to be a thing with Guy Ritchie recently that anything he's been involved in, I don't think his heart's in it. So maybe there's been an issue there. I mean, I didn't really like Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. I liked Snatch, and I like the Sherlock Holmes films so far. So it's he can do it if he can bring it to the table, but whether or not he can is the question, because he's sometimes, I think he's a bit hit and miss, so maybe there's issues there.
Yeah, and also when you've got a cast of Henry Cavill and Arnie Hammer. Henry Cavill, if you take out his role in the last Superman movie, look back over his career.
Look at Immortals. I mean,
it's
really
an awful film.
Yeah, Immortals and the Light of Day.
Yeah.
Which were honestly quite terrible. And then also, I forgot who it is now. You said the other person as well.
Arnie Hammer was the Lone Ranger.
Yeah. And who was the Lone Ranger, and not so much through his own fault, but was basically the weakest actor in the Lone Ranger, considering he's supposed to be the main character.
Yeah, considering that the film probably should have been called The Lone Tonto. Considering that it was more focused on Tonto because they got Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Let's not go on about that, though, because I will go into an argument with that, because I liked Lone Ranger.
And I didn't. Next piece of news is the next film in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise has been announced by Millennium Films. The film will be called Leatherface and be a prequel that will explore the teen years of the main character.
Snore.
7th film in the series, 3rd prequel.
At least with the Nightmare on Elm Street films, they got to 7 with only 1 prequel.
Yeah, but 3 prequels. Because you can't count Texas Chainsaw as a prequel because it was a sequel supposedly to the first film. It's more confusing than the Fast and Furious series.
Well, yeah, but lots of things are more confusing than the Fast and Furious, because you don't really need a brain to really get the Fast and Furious series.
Yeah, it can't be as bad though as Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Next Generation with Renée Zellweger in it.
I have no idea.
The better, the better. According to Deadline, Tom Hiddleston has been eyed by MGM and Paramount Pictures for their Ben-Hur remake. Tamir Bekmambetov is set to direct with a February 2016 release date. Why remake Ben-Hur? Why?
Yeah, that's just... I have no comment on that. It's like another film that's unnecessarily being remade.
Especially you're getting Tamir Bekmambetov to do it. Again, another director who did a couple of decent films. The Deer Watch, Night Watch series. Supposedly a 3rd one was planned, but he never got around to do that and wanted. And then after that, he decided to throw his career down the toilet.
Well, it'll look good.
Yeah, but Apollo 18.
Well, I haven't seen that, but I mean, I'm thinking primarily of...
The Darkest Hour.
Yeah, it looked good, but it was terrible.
Yep. More news is... I think I'm the bearer of horrible news. TV-wise are reporting that sci-fi TV series Babylon 5 will be getting a big screen reboot. Original creator Gia Michael Straczynski will direct the film. However, production will not begin until 2016. I hated Babylon 5.
Yeah, it wasn't even a very good television series. I'm probably going to get hate mail because of that, but it wasn't a great television series anyway, so... I don't know. Are they gonna be doing it with the main characters and the actors they had, or are they gonna be recasting it with film actors?
They're trying to, but
they're gonna have better special effects.
They're gonna have to, because it wasn't that kind of thing where you were either a Star Trek fan, TV wise, or Babylon 5 fan, because nobody was a Babylon 5 fan. Anybody who admits that they were a Babylon 5 fan are a liar, because they just want to be slightly different. My last piece of terrible news is the Conjuring writers, Carrie and Chad Hayes, have been hired by New Line Cinema to pen the script for the next 2 Journey films. Dwayne Johnson is also set to return as he is attached to 2 more films.
You're just gonna turn away any listeners that we have left now.
Yeah, it's just that was the best news I could find.
Well, do you think they'll have more bouncing cherries with biceps?
Oh, please no. Just so they can have 3D in it. Yeah, please no. They'll probably do what the Spy Kids did and released in 4D. Because that was the 4th film in the series, so I think we should just move on.
Yeah. We're going to go on to the first review because we've got quite a lot to get through tonight.
Nope.
Sorry, no, I'm not. I'm going to do the box office top 10 because I'm completely out of my head, yeah. Yeah.
So at number 10 is Transformers: Age of Extinction.
Yeah, I mean we've done it. We've gone through it pretty much. It's surprising it's still in there because it has kind of dropped a bit. But I mean, I don't have an issue with this as much as I do with the previous couple of Transformers films, but still an issue. And I'm kind of hopeful now that Michael Bay is supposedly going to walk away from the films.
Supposedly.
Yeah. At least directing them. I don't care if he stays on producing because he's not a bad producer on stuff. I've seen other things that he's produced and they're okay. Haven't seen the new Turtles film yet because he's produced that but not directed it. But I guess we'll find that out later. And so I am open to that being directed by someone else and seeing if they can infuse a bit more life into it. Future ones. But I didn't mind the last one. This one. I thought it was okay.
Can you just imagine, though, being a director with Michael Bay hovering above you all the way through the film that you're trying to create? He's constantly either going to want to jump in, take the direction duty off you and do it the way he sees fit, or whisper in your ear, no, that's not how I would do it, this is how I would do it. It would get right on my nerves.
Imagine you'll have, like, in one ear, you'll have Michael Bay, and in the other ear, you'll have Steven Spielberg. It's like the angel and the devil on your shoulders.
Yeah, at number 9 is The Purge: Anarchy.
Which I liked more than you did. I like the fact that it opens up the world of the Purge and takes it out on the streets, and you see what's happening, and the whole thing of the clash of the the classes between the rich and the poor, and the whole thing of the Purge being sort of not entirely successful as it was intended to be. And because of that things are being sort of manipulated in a way. I really liked that side of it. I thought it was really good and really well done. And especially considering it's not made for much more than the first one was, I think it's a great success. And as long as they can keep doing something different and fresh with it, I look forward to them doing a third one because they are going to do another one.
Yeah, to be honest, though, I thought Frank Grillo's character was a bit weak. I think he's actually stronger in the latest Captain America film. Even though his character is very predictable in that film, I just thought that in this one it was a bit weak. It was too predictable. And a lot of the movie was majorly predictable. It just happens to be that the couple's car breaks down on Purge night, surprisingly.
It's because of the fact that I've heard you say that now, I've heard someone else say that now, and I've heard someone else again in a review the other day say about this. It was the guys that were following them, that were stalking them, that have sabotaged their car. That's why they're following them. That's what I got from it. When I first saw it, I saw it and those guys have done something to the car. And then it broke down and I was like, that's it. You know, I don't get how nobody else got this.
And surprisingly, they couldn't find anywhere to get in. Not even an abandoned building or whatever to try and find shelter, surprisingly. So it's just... I know, but still, there's got to be an abandoned shelter or a few homeless guys who are to get, you're not sharing my box. Or they could have locked themselves in a big massive dumpster. But no, they didn't do that.
They tried that and then they went and moved on to the next one. See,
true, there is a homeless guy who throws them out of his dumpster, but it's too predictable. And the scope of the film, even though a lot of people were hoping that they would extend their scope, it still didn't fully utilise it, the idea. But I'm actually looking forward to supposedly the next film, which is supposedly going to be a prequel. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it was created. And number 8 is Hercules,
which I really enjoyed. I thought is Brett Ratner's best film to date. It's kind of redeemed him a little in my eyes because I really did not like him as a director. And this is well staged, well executed, and it's fairly well written. It has a nice twist on the Hercules legend. Dwayne Johnson is believable and good in the main role, and it has a good cast surrounding him as well, because you've got like Peter Mullins in there, you've got John Hurt, and you've also got Ian McShane. Yeah, Ian McShane. I couldn't think of his name there. He's there as well as Rufus Sewell, and all of those English actors around them. They're all great sort of dry wit acting, but also, I mean, Peter Mullen's quite menacing in it. John Hurt's quite serious to it as well. The film was a little predictable, but I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it, and I went with my other half. We saw this. We both walked out at the end and thought, "Wow, we really enjoyed that. It was a lot better than I was expecting. A lot better."
A little predictable is a bit of an understatement. It's really, really predictable.
Yeah. Well, the thing of the twist, if you say it halfway through it, of why he's there, you kind of go, yeah, I saw that coming a mile off. But
It's that kind of annoying thing at the start of the film, going, you think you know more about the character than it actually did happen. This is the true story of what actually how Hercules lived his life. It's just a tiny bit ridiculous in that front, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be, because I saw this after Guardians of the Galaxy, and I thought, after coming out of Guardians of the Galaxy on a big massive high, I was hoping that this wasn't going to completely dampen my spirits, and it didn't. And it was passable 90 minutes of entertainment. So that surprised me on that front, because I thought it was going to be a car crash of a movie.
I think it was longer than 90 minutes, wasn't it?
It was around about 90 minutes, 100 minutes in that area there. Yeah. And number 7 is The Nut Job.
I haven't seen this, so you'll have to comment on this one.
Yeah, the less said about The Nut Job, the better. It is one of those cannon fodder animated films which is just thrown into the cinema just to bolster the schedule, the release schedule, because the company realised there wasn't very many films at that time, or any films that would target towards kids, so we'll release it then about 6 months after the release in the US as well. So you feel a bit sceptical when you hear that, when there's a gap like 6 to 12 months of an animated film coming out, and it is very weak. It's not funny, it's not entertaining. The animation is passable, but that's about it.
Disappointing to hear that, because I like the look of it, because it does look funny in the trailer.
And every character in it is really just repulsive, because they're just there to get one up on each other, and that's not providing a good message towards kids. And number 6 is Secret Cinema Back to the Future.
Yeah, I mean, this is a special occasion, but it's actually gone up. It was number 7 last week. And it's just been so hugely successful because of the fandom that there is connected with Back to the Future. I mean, if I was in London, I'd probably be trying to go and see it as well. It's just a big spectacle night where people go sort of 4 hours before they actually see the film, and it's one of these things that's Secret Cinema. I think it's the first time Secret Cinema's got into the top 10. I think the last big thing they did was Blade Runner, which I'm kind of surprised at, if that didn't make it in, that this did, because that's got us just as big a following. But yeah, I mean, it's Back to the Future. If you haven't seen it, you've got to see it. And I believe there are people out there who haven't seen it, that even if they're not in London, go and get the Blu-rays.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, even if you can only afford the DVDs, just go rent the DVD or buy the DVD. It's one of those films from the 80s which is a must-see. And the only reason why it's at number 6 is because even though the takings were down on last week, the takings on the box office were slightly down because of a few films near the top of the chart.
Yeah, but the Blu-ray, I have to say, is a really nice Blu-ray transfer.
At number 5 is How to Train Your Dragon 2.
Great sequel, better animation, better characters, really good story. Has some dark moments that kids may be a little bit afraid of and will be disappointed with and upset about, some emotional bits in it. But really, really good movie and fun, and it is worth one of these films that's, I think it's only PG as well, which is a rare thing. It might be 12, but I think it's PG.
PG.
And it's rare that a film that's PG is this good, and especially you can see it's hung around in the box office like a bad stink, but for good reasons.
Yeah, the last dark PG film that I remember watching was Rise of the Guardians, on the level of the darkness of this.
Maleficent was quite dark as well, and that was a PG.
Animated film.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So Rise of the Guardians, sort of like last year when they released those band of those horror sort of like kids animated films with Paranorman and Rise of the Guardians. They were like PGs, but they were dark. But Rise of the Guardians, I think, was the one where you have like the light element of it, like with the How to Train Your Dragon 2. But the film itself got darker and darker and darker the more it went on. I really liked Rise of the Guardians just because Guillermo del Toro was involved with it. Slightly biased on that front, but I really, really liked How to Train Your Dragon 2. In my opinion, it is the best animated film this year. Better than Lego Movie. But that's just my opinion. At number 4, not the best animated film of the year, is Planes 2 Fire and Rescue.
Yeah, completely shallow, completely pointless, and I mean it's almost, in fact I would say it's almost as bad as the first one. It's slightly better because the animation is a lot better in certain places. There's a couple of genuinely visually thrilling scenes that look, I was kind of watching it and I was bored and I was uninterested, and then there's a couple of moments that happen, the flying sequences, and it's to do with a plane learning to fight fires, and a couple of the sequences flying through the fires were genuinely quite well put together and looked amazing. That's it though. No humour, no laughs, no characters you really can care about and interested. There's a little sequence in it which is really nice to see, kind of a throwback to Chips, the old police bike series, which with a thing called Chops, which is Choppers, and it's a spoof of that. That's brilliant. I wish they'd basically released that online just on its own, and that's fine. You don't have to go and see the whole film then. But the rest of the film is just, I'm afraid, boring as an animation, and it shouldn't be.
Yeah, I agree with you on that front. It is boring. I've actually seen it myself. It's not as bad as the first one. I agree with you in the fact that there's a couple of nice sweeping animation scenes near to the end where he's actually flying up the waterfall itself. That's quite really nicely animated, and a few of the fire scenes where he's first putting out one of the fires and it's actually dampened out some of the camper vans. Again, that's actually quite nice. It's just the film itself is empty. Dane Cook, who does the voice of Dusty Crophopper, Dane Cook is not funny at all, and when you get a non-funny comedian to do the voice of the lead character in your film, it's just pointless.
I have to say though, I don't think it's his fault. I think it's the scripting of it. I think it's not well written. I think it's a film that's been rushed to get it out in the cinemas. It's Disney's doing their own thing and taking it away from Pixar again, because the first one was Disney and took it away from Pixar. And I definitely had a feel of that most of the time you get, especially when you cast a comedic person to do a voice for a cartoon character, I believe they normally get the person to do the voice first, and then they match the animation to the voice, and they pick out the best takes and they go with what they've got, and they pick out the funny things as well, and that's why some of the funny and the humour in the animations is normally so good. I'm pretty sure in this one they did the animation, then they got the people to do the voices, and that's why it doesn't work.
Yeah. Number 3 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes,
which is animation done really well with the animation of Caesar and the apes, but it's a really good drama. It's fantastically put together. It's got a great thing of the whole thing of the two sides of the humans and the apes. It's good to see that it's made this evolution from Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but it hasn't gone completely Planet of the Apes. We're still taking steps to get through that, which is what I really like. It's still, we've got other steps to go in the future as well. And the thing that's really good though is that there are moments in this where it's just the apes, and the performance of the actors, especially Toby Kebbell, who is the second in command of the apes, and playing Caesar again. You have Andy Serkis returning, but also the other apes. You have Maurice there, and these other ones, and there's character in these CG performances that are just brilliant and so breathtaking that honestly you connect with them more than you have for most of the films out this year.
And number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy.
Marvel's amongst their best films so far. Still, for me, it's a film later on we'll get to in the DVD section, but this is really, really high up there at the top, near the top of the list of Marvel's films. And the really, really strange thing is that it's basically separate, standalone for the majority of everything in it from all the other Marvel films so far. Yes, it has connections to do with the Infinity Stones and that kind of thing, but only things that if you've not seen the other films, you don't have to. You can watch this and you enjoy it just as much. It's funny, it's well written, it's well acted, especially from everyone in the cast. There's not really any weak points to it. It doesn't have any major problems that some of the Marvel films have had previously. It does have a little bit of a weaker villain, but as they've had more, but I didn't have so much of a problem with that, and I really, really enjoyed the heck out of this film.
And it has a dancing Groot. That's not giving anything away because they released it as a meme, a clip.
Yeah.
So it has a dancing Groot, which I was slightly annoyed that they released that, considering that there is a tiny bit of a spoiler in it. But a dancing Groot, I want one. I want the dancing Groot. Plus, the thing I was thinking about the other day is with the release of Guardians of the Galaxy, and they weren't sure how well it was going to do, and evidently it's actually done really well at the box office. I wonder if they'll think about doing a Defenders of the Earth live-action movie.
Well, supposedly they're going to be thinking about doing Marvel, because I don't think Marvel has Defenders of the Earth, but Marvel is going to now start looking at doing the comic series Inhumans, which is something that a lot of fans want but didn't think they were going to get because of the fact that it's too distant and separate from everything else. So it looks like Marvel has taken the challenge and risked it, doing Guardians, which is completely separate, and I mean, introducing a whole set of new characters that haven't been set up in the other films, and that are kind of B-list characters in the comics, have been made A-list characters in the films because they've done so well.
And supposedly Doctor Strange is not going to be an origin story, so they're going to distance themselves away when they're introducing new characters into the universes. You're not going to get an origin story anymore, which is a good thing because I think people are getting a bit sick of that. But I would like to see a Defenders of the Earth movie.
Yeah,
It's
I mean
because-
we're only just now 2.5 weeks since it was released, and I'm just looking at Box Office Mojo. Its worldwide amount, including the US and the world, so far has taken $418 million. So,
Yeah, on a movie that was supposedly a bit risky.
yeah, and that's still obviously not been released in all other places around the world yet. I mean, there's some of the big markets. I don't believe it's released in Japan and China yet. So
They should eat it up with there. And at number 1 is a new entry for The In-Betweeners 2,
which I haven't seen.
which I unfortunately have seen. It's 90% sex jokes, 10% of not a bad film. There are times in the movie where when they do stop talking about sex and stop making jokes about it, that it becomes a pretty decent film. There is a scene where they're stuck in the desert, and it's just those four together, and that's the best bit of the film. Just unfortunately for me, I had to struggle through 80 minutes to get to that scene. I smirked once, not at the scene where a lot of people were just laughing their heads off involving a water slide and something that should never be seen on a water slide. But the film itself, I didn't like it, which is no surprise there, considering I didn't like the first one, and I'm not much of a fan of the TV series. But if you're a fan of the TV series, you'll get something out of it. It's just, I wish they would end it now. That's it, no more, please, no more. But that's not going to be the case, because this is on course to actually make more than 45 million, which is what the first one made.
Yeah, well, I won't be seeing the third one because I won't be seeing the second one, so you'll have to do that one as well.
DVD.
So that's your UK box office list. Now I'm going to go on to my first review, which is Hector
On a
and the
Monday.
Search for Happiness.
Sorry, I told you there was one more, and I just thought I would slip it in there.
Yeah, I thought you were going to save it for the DVD section.
Yep.
Hector and the Search for Happiness, which is directed by Peter Chisholm. It's based on the novel by Francois Lelord, which I'm going to have to try and pronounce this because it's in French, but Le Voyage de Hector ou la Recherche de Bonheur. I think I did pretty well with that. But yeah, it stars Simon Pegg as the main character Hector, we're introduced to him at the very start of the film. He is a guy who kind of lives a very simple life. Everything's kind of planned out for his day. It's all done for him. Most of the things are sort of set. His lunch and everything is made and packed and basically all done for him by his girlfriend Clara, played by Rosamund Pike. Everything's sort of all set. If there's anything sort of out of place, within moments it's fixed and it's done. And something he leads a very sort of everything's set. No randomness, nothing unplanned, and everything in his life. He's a psychiatrist, and so he sees several sort of his patients that he sees regularly, who are sort of all very much sort of seeing him, but he's not really helping them much. And the reason he realises he's helping them much is because of the fact that he sort of suspects he's not really happy, and he needs to try and figure out exactly what it is that happiness means, what it is that leads to happiness, so that he can then in return get this sorted out and actually sort of give happiness and help his patients. So he decides what he's going to have to do is go on a trip, and in order to do this he speaks to Clara and sorts out and lets her know this is what he wants to do. Here's a clip.
I need to get away. Take a trip. I'm not making my patients any happier, and I need to do some research.
On what?
Happiness. So I can help. Look at my life, Clara. I feel like such a fraud. Like an armchair traveller dishing out worldly advice.
When?
Soon. Very soon. Now.
Yeah, there's no way I can get the time off. I mean, not now. Not at this time of year.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I really, really am. Will you be here when I get back?
How long will you be gone?
I don't know.
Then I can't answer the question, can I?
Before you go on, I think Kat is actually a bit heartbroken with your French accent, so you need to work on it.
Yeah, she said, I have typed a reply in the chat window, I can see that, but for some reason the chat window hasn't updated, so I have typed reply, but I'll get back to that. But from the movie then onwards, Hector does go abroad. He travels to a couple of countries. He goes through, first of all, to China, and has a sort of a trip there, which is sort of almost results in him having a scandal with someone because he is having a relationship with someone because of the fact that he mistakes this for happiness. And then he goes to Africa, where he meets an old friend and sees them sort of a doctor treating people, and he sort of stays there for a week and helps him out. Gets kidnapped and sort of held as a prisoner, and sort of risks his life because of that, and all these sort of things. And he goes along through these places and other places as well. Every now and then you get this. He meets people and he asks them, are you happy? Can you explain to me why you're happy? Tell me, what does happiness mean to you? And he goes around asking people, all the way writing in this journal that Clara has given him. She snuck into his backpack and said to him, write notes in this, make a note of this, and keep a journal of it, which he does. And he does images and drawings and stuff, and which get animated on the screen and get shown as animations. And the thing is with it that it's very sure of itself, but a little bit condescending to the audience in the whole thing of there's this is what happiness is, and then it goes, wait a minute, this isn't what happiness is, and you kind of get annoyed with it because of the fact that it does this. And it's obviously taking a story, and you have this story where he's travelling and going from here to here and here. I don't know. Obviously, it's based on a book, but I don't know if the book is a work of fiction, or a work of truth, or something like that, or if it's just something that's been adapted that way. But it does have a feel that it has that kind of based on a person's real experiences and certain things that happen, and it's weird because of the fact that it has that feel of being based on real things, and yet the things that happen are so outlandish in it at points and times. You think, come on, could this really have happened? How much have you embellished this story? So it kind of doesn't know whether or not it's trying to tell a story or be a work of fiction or be a work of a true story or not. It doesn't say at any point based on a true story, but I mean that doesn't mean it isn't. And there's this thing of he meets these people along the way. I mean, he meets the first person he meets in China is played by Stellan Skarsgård, who's brilliant in the little role he has. He's basically a guy who he meets. He gets upgraded. Hector gets upgraded to first class by accident. Sits next to this character played by Stellan Skarsgård, who hates him and can't stand him at first, and then becomes friends with him and basically says to him, "You're in China looking for happiness. Here, let me show you happiness," and takes him out in the town and spends loads of money on him and says to him about what happiness means to him, about earning 20 million and stuff like that. And you kind of sitting there going, yeah, and sort of this whole topic then is raised of money doesn't buy the happiness in the world, and you're kind of sitting there and going, yeah, you got 20 million, of course it doesn't buy you happiness, you're rich, and that kind of characters that annoy you. So not just the main character, but the other characters, because the main character initially as well is rather annoying, especially at the beginning, when he lives this kind of very penciled into this stuck way of life. The thing I have to say though is then, as much as it is really annoying, come the second hour of the film, because it is 121 minutes, second hour of the film, it really starts to go somewhere and really starts to gain ground, and you really start getting into the character and really start understanding him and start enjoying as he's going on this journey, and you're kind of going on a journey with him. So it's annoying, it's enjoyable though, and then it starts getting even better, and by the end of the film it genuinely kind of ends with a, you know what, I enjoyed that, I had fun, I feel good about the film, and I feel that it did what it was trying to do, which is it started out with horrible sort of premise and characters, and then it gets better and it builds up to the end, and then it makes you realise that the character actually does have a breakthrough at certain points, and you kind of see, there has been an evolution and the character has got better. It's not one of the films where you get to the end and you go, oh well, I realised that I had all this at the start and I had this, and not one of these films where it backtracks. It actually goes through it all, it changes, and then you come out the end and you go, you know what, I'm better for it. Instead of going, those 2 hours were terrible, I want them back, and I didn't want that at the end of this film. I thought it was okay.
Normally I would rebuttal with questions, etc., but we don't have time. I'm guessing we've already dared into quite a bit of time anyway, and we've still got quite a few movies to get through.
Yeah.
So I'll go straight on to The Expendables 3, which is not a movie that is going to affect your life in any way, shape or form. It's not about happiness. Actually, it just makes action fans happy. because it is directed by Patrick Hughes, and it's the return of Sylvester Stallone's character of Barney Ross and the Expendables crew. And the opening of the film sees them hijack a train which is taking a prisoner, played by Wesley Snipes, to a maximum security prison. They break him out of that, and the ultimate thank you from Wesley Snipes' character is to destroy the prison in big, massive, explosive fashion. Which is, you expect that kind of thing in that kind of set piece in an action movie like this. They team up, obviously Wesley Snipes is now joining them to take down this evil guy who's supposedly selling bombs. They ultimately find out that this is Mel Gibson's character, Banks, who was a member of the Expendables, but now he's turned rogue. He's now evil. And so they try to stop him. Unfortunately, that doesn't go to plan because one of them is injured, which forces them to stop them to try and go on after him. And they rush him to hospital, where Ross thinks it's probably a good idea if I leave the rest of the Expendables here on a hunt for Stonebank. So he decides to get a team together of younger recruits or younger people with the help of Kelsey Grammer's character to try and stop him. Unfortunately, they are kidnapped, which is forcing the rest of the Expendables to team back up again to try and rescue them. He's a muddled clip of sorts which explains, which I don't know why you needed explaining, what the Expendables are like.
Welcome to the 21st century. I could do that.
You want to slip on a dress and give it a shot?
Hey, Marty, you should have killed me while you had the chance. You want the kids? Come get them.
This house until we knock it down. So get yourself
Courageous, but insane.
Yeah, so there aren't any proper clips to show off what the Expendables is like, but do you need to actually see them? Considering that if you've seen the first two, you know what to expect in the third one. It is all of these 80s and 90s action stars bringing together some of the ones from the 21st century, put them into a movie, an action movie, and just saying, have fun. Because you've got a cast which features Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham, Harrison Ford, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mel Gibson, Wesley Snipes, Dolph Lundgren, Randy Couture, Terry Crews, Kelsey Grammer, Antonio Banderas, Ronda Rousey, Kellen Lutz, Jet Li. So it's a stupidly action-packed cast. The thing with the Expendables 3 is, if you'll have heard our reviews previously of the Expendables and the Expendables 2, you know I'm not a fan of the series. I hated the second one, even though I thought it was slightly better than the first one, because I just thought that the second one was just them spouting out their catchphrases, and that's it. The third one, they've tried to add a coherent storyline on top of it, which is a bit pointless to do that in the kind of movie that it is, to make it seem slightly better and make it feel a bit more of a coherent movie. And it slightly works better. It is the best out of the three, I think, because it has a better flow to it, and the action set pieces feel like they're there to help the movie go along rather than just to show off that the fact that you've got all of these big action stars in it. So at least they've got a point of them being there, and it's not boring. They don't spout out their stupid catchphrases every sentence that they're saying. So it's not boring on that front, and it's okay. And that's sort of high praise for me, considering what I've thought of the first two.
It's funny you should kind of say that, and you think this is the best one of all three?
Yeah, because I didn't like the first two.
Yeah, I think this is the weakest one of all three. It's my least favourite of all three. I like the other two, and I like the thing of it being that it's the others were uncut and violent, and you had all that in there. I know that they obviously got to cut it down because they're trying to get a bigger audience with the PG-13 and the 12A. And I thought that there was too many characters again, and there's even more characters they've added, and the whole thing of it becomes then, oh, they're Expendables, but oh no, they're not Expendables because I don't want them to die, so I don't want to work with them anymore. I'm going to get a young new crew and introduce new characters and just go that way, and then the old ones come back, and it plods more. It really does. I don't like. I don't hate it, but I don't like it. I think it's just pandering too much to the wrong crowd when it started out as this big thing of being the classic action stars when there are plenty of other classic action stars, not even necessarily action films. There are plenty of other classic actors and actresses out there they can tap to appear in this, and they're not doing it. Instead, they're going for the young crowd and they're trying to bring in the young audience, and that kind of annoyed me. And I felt like it was a bit of a betrayal on what the Expendables started out as.
Well, that's the thing. The problem with the first one is it tried to take itself a bit too seriously, considering what the movie that it was trying to be, and ultimately it was boring. The problem with the second one is it just felt like it was just their catchphrases all stitched into the stuff that they were reading, with a horrendous storyline on top, making Jean-Claude Van Damme the bad guy. Very cheesy beyond cheesy. I understand the reason why they're going with the third one to capture a different audience, because they've catered to the fans of the 80s action series with the first two. That's what that was for. With this one, it's to bring it more forward, to show people who were 15 or whatever, to show them that this is what they were like. These were big action stars back in the day, and in a way, it might actually push them to go and see those action films of the 80s. And they'll know what they were like. Yeah, it's a load of characters and what you expect with the list of that. But I just felt the set pieces were better handled. The train opening set piece was actually not bad. The big, huge, massive set piece at the end of the film, which involves the building and them getting shot at by waves and waves of enemies, it felt like you were watching a video game. That you were... It can be a bad thing watching a video game rather than playing a video game when you've just got swarms of enemies just bombarding you. But it just still made it feel more slightly entertaining rather than just pandering to a specific audience which they've already catered to with 2 films. You don't need 3 films for that.
No, because I felt differently. I didn't think it was particularly well edited. I thought that it jumped a lot, and I thought that it rushed a lot of things. And I just felt like it was literally just a case of, oh, let's quit this. It felt as if it's rushed and quick. Oh, get this done, made it out, put it out so that the kids can see it. And that kind of felt like an insult to me as a fan of the first 2, and as someone who's into these films, and someone who the person who it was originally made for, what the Expendables was made for.
The way I see it, though, is this movie needs to be looked at as separate from the first 2. Even though it's got characters from the first 2 in it and actors, etc., it needs to be looked slightly separately because it is a bridge over to... which is probably going to be a 4th one, but the next generation of the Expendables, the Nextables, or whatever they're going to call it, it needs to be some of the newer stars from the 21st century in the next Expendables film, and there needed to be a bridge rather than just having 3 films where it featured the 80s action stars, and then the 4th one going, we're throwing it out the window, and now we're going to go with the next generation stars. It's sort of like giving you the best of both worlds in a way, and acting as a bridge gap for the next film. But we could be on this for the rest of the night anyway, so...
I'm just going to go quick though. I would say I would have rather they'd done, instead of bringing in the new younger crowd, I would rather they'd done something with this whole thing of the new Expendables that we're going to do, and bring in the characters, the female characters from that, and have it be the female characters from the 80s films and the action films brought in to join it. And I would rather done that than bring in the younger characters.
But in that instance, though, it would have been even more of a messy film, because then you would have had to bring in a lot of female action stars. So you would have a lot of male and female action stars from the 80s in the movie, and so there would be even more characters. Because they only introduced a couple of the newer next generation characters themselves, so there was only like 3 or 4 of them, rather than maybe 10, which they would have to do if they were going to try and show off the Expendables.
Okay, well, I'm going to go on to The Rover, which is a small release that's directed by David Michod. It's also, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He also wrote the screenplay of the movie as well. It's a small Australian film starring Guy Pearce as a character who, at the start of the film, we're told, just on the screen it comes up saying that this is 10 years in Australia, 10 years after the collapse. That's all we're told. Starts off with sort of out in the middle of almost sort of the outback on a main road. There's an empty road. This character played by Guy Pearce turns up in his car, stops, gets out, and goes into a place and buys a drink, basically. Sitting there, having a drink. Someone else comes along in their car, in sort of a truck, that they end up crashing. There's 3 men in that who sort of get out, having been involved in something that's gone on. One of them's been shot, they're injured, and they basically can't get their truck to start again, so they get out, steal Guy Pearce's character's car, drive off in that. He sees this, runs out after them, sort of realises their truck, gets in their truck and manages to get it started again, and manages to get it out of the sort of the wreckage that it's kind of stuck in, and starts chasing after them, following them along the road. He sort of gets their attention, they get out, knock him unconscious, and then he finds himself in a situation with a character played by Robert Pattinson, who plays Ray, who basically turns up to him and says, "What are you doing with my brother's truck?" And trying to figure out what happened to his brother and the men who have left him behind after something went on. Here's a clip.
Because I believe in God, and I know Henry believes in God, and there's no harm Henry wants to see me come to. And I believe in that.
Yeah, look at the harm you've come to, and where's Henry?
He's waiting for me.
He's not waiting for you.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. I'll tell you what God's given you. He's put a bullet in you. And he's abandoned you out here to me. He feels nothing for you. He couldn't give a if you died tomorrow. God gave you a brother who's not waiting for you. He gave you a brother who's not even thinking about you right now. Just because you and him come out of the same woman's hole. The only thing that means anything right now is that I'm here. And he's not.
So, here's the thing with the Rover. It starts out with this thing where basically it has this opening bit where they have this road chase, and there's a nice, lovely little shot especially of the truck getting up to the back of the car and running up to it and just almost tapping the back of the car in this kind of intimidation thing, just like out of Mad Max. And people have compared it to Mad Max in certain ways because of this. And then after that, it completely loses any traction it has and completely goes to a completely different place. And honestly, this is one of my most disliked films of the year so far, and I've heard reviews that have been really good about it, I've heard reviews that have been really negative about it, and I have to err on the side of the negative ones because of the fact of that Guy Pearce in it, he's absolutely fantastic. His performance is the only thing that's really good about the film. It suffers from problems of pacing, it suffers from problems of terrible writing, it suffers from problems of even more terrible dialogue, and also from a honest to God don't know what he was thinking performance from Robert Pattinson, who is just, I honestly don't know what was going on with his character. You could not understand what he said half the time. He's supposed to be a guy who's from the south of America, and him and his brother have somehow ended up over in Australia, and there's this thing going on with the two of them, and they kind of end up sort of becoming allies, but is he there to help him or not, and him sort of turning on his brother, and this whole thing of him then being a bit of a bit of a retarded simpleton. And it's a case of you kind of, with a film, normally you have to have something about the character you can follow, you can be into, you can get into. With this, there was nothing about the characters that made them particularly likeable or particularly something you want to care about. Guy Pearce's character, at the very start of the film, he goes in somewhere and says to a guy, "I need a gun." He gets sent to a place, walks into the guy, and the guy says, "It's 300 for the gun." He goes, "I don't have 300, so he just picks up the gun and shoots the guy in the head. And you kind of like, okay,
brilliant.
So, well, yeah, no, it's supposed to be like you're supposed to be interested in this character, and he does that, and then he does it. Just is his behaviour later in the film. There is, as I say, some great acting from him when he explains at one point about his issues with what happened what happened to him and his situation after the collapse that happened. But the big problem with it is, though, it feels all the way through it, there's this thing of him trying to get back his car, and you don't know why. There's something there, but you don't understand why exactly, and it's explained, and you do get the explanation of it at the end. But you kind of, it feels as if it's a film that is missing a lot of stuff. Especially in particular, it feels like there's flashbacks that should be in there that are missing, and it doesn't even try and explain it. It just leaves it back. But the problem is, where these flashbacks feel like they should be there's nothing to fill the time. It's literally stretching out whole sequences in the film that are 5 or 10 minutes that honestly nothing happens. The characters are just driving along a road, and that's it, and not even talking. I mean, one of them might be asleep in the car while the other one's driving, and that's it for 5 or 10 minutes at a time. And it's not even like it's trying to be an allegory for something. You get to the end and you basically, it's like, it's not since the first time I saw American Psycho, which admittedly I like American Psycho. First time I saw it, I hated it. I got to the end of it and I honestly thought, what the hell was that all about? What was the point? That is what I got to at the end of this. It was honestly a case of, what did I just sit through this for? And get to the end and kind of go, what? Honestly, what was that about? Why do that? And it's not as if it even gets to a point and you have like a big thing happens and that's it, and it kind of makes up for it. It doesn't. You get bored, you fall asleep, you get to the end, that's it. It's one of the most coma-inducing films that I've seen, and I don't mean that in that it's bad. I mean that in that it's just boring.
Yeah, I was going to ask questions, but yeah, I don't want you to keep on going on, to be honest, so I'm not going to. That was just the only thing I was interested in. Robert Pattinson seems to be picking and choosing very strange roles, and I was just interested to wonder if he's acting as just as bad as it was in Cosmopolis, because I hated that film.
It seems as though he's picked this role in a similar way that Selena Gomez picked
Spring Breakers,
just to do something edgy that isn't the typical kind of thing that they're associated with, to do something that goes, hang on a minute, I can do something different. Doesn't matter if you can do something different if it's rubbish, though.
He did do that with Cosmopolis. The Cosmopolis is a completely different movie to Twilight, and so him saying that he's chosen this role because it's different to what he's done before, that's not the case, because his character in Cosmopolis is really unlikable and horrible. I just did not like the film at all, and by the sounds of it, the way you've described this, I'm not going to like him in this neither.
I don't think you will. I'd be interested to see what you come up with, but it's a mess. Yeah. It really is.
We'll go on to the next film, which is Blood Ties. It's directed by Guillermo Canet, and it's got a huge cast. It's starring Clive Owen, Billy Crudup, Marion Cotillard, Mila Kunis, Zoe Saldana, James Caan, Matthias Schoenaerts, Noah Emmerich, Lily Taylor. It's set in 1974, and it centres around Clive Owen's character, who plays Chris. He's been sentenced to 12 years in prison, but he's managed to get out now. He's decided to move into with his brother, and reluctantly his brother decides to house him and tries to get him on the straight and narrow instead of going back into the gangland territories that he was part of. Unfortunately for his brother, that's not going to be the case, though, because Chris is dragged down into it even more so. He meets up with a girl who works on the books of this mechanical shop, played by Mila Kunis. He falls for her practically instantly. She's constantly getting the numbers wrong in the job that she's working at, making mistakes all the time, and having to pay money out of her own wages. And unfortunately, she can't live properly, and so he falls for her, establishes a relationship with her. You think he's turning it around, but unfortunately, he gets himself embroiled into stuff that he should not be involved into, and his brother is not happy with it, so he decides to sever ties with him, which doesn't turn out really well for both sides of the family. Now, the thing with Blood Ties is, it's got that big cast in it, and you expect it to have a sort of like a theatrical feel with it having a huge cast like that, and it doesn't. It feels like it is a mini-series, a made-for-TV mini-series, but one which maybe lasts about hour and a half. It's like if they took episodes of The Sopranos or something like that and melded them together, 2 episodes. Like you normally get 2-parters or 3-parters of a TV series. That's what this feels like. It has no scope. It has no way of pushing itself forward at a pace where it should actually suit the film itself. Considering you've got multiple characters played by some brilliant actors in here, and some of them are very interesting. James Caan is really good as Chris's father, and Mila Kunis is not bad neither as Chris's girlfriend, soon-to-be wife in the film. It's just they're very wasteful because their characters are much more stronger than the film itself than the storyline. These are two characters, or there's a couple of other characters as well. Maria Cotillard's character, she's really good in it. She plays a woman who's supposedly really down and out and had a relationship with Chris in the past, but was scorned by her. And you could lift these characters out, put them in a much more stronger film, and it would suit it better. Clive Owen is a bit weak in the movie. He just plods along, and that it sums up the film. It's very plodding. It's very boring. It's very long. And it should have been a mini-series on TV, not a film that was released in the cinema.
Okay, so the last film released in cinemas this week we're going through is The Congress, which is directed and written by Ari Folman, I think his name is, who's based it on a novel by Stanislaw Lem. It's a bit of a weird one, but go with me on this. You have the character of Robin Wright, played by Robin Wright, so she's playing a pastiche of herself, who in the movie, she sort of lives with her two kids, her son and a daughter. She is contacted by a studio through her agent, played by Harvey Keitel, by the way, who come in and speak with them about the latest contract that someone wants to offer her, which is going to be the only contract that anyone's going to offer her, because she's an out-of-work actress and hasn't sort of worked for a while because she's been picky about her roles. The studio head, Jeff, played by Danny Houston, gives her this offer basically that they want to digitise her, they want to scan her, they want to get her performance on sort of digital file and animate her so that they can then use her in the future film, which is going to be completely CGing actors to play the parts. And you see footage that supposedly is actors that have had this happen to them, and it plays out and it looks almost indistinguishable from real people. She sort of begrudgingly goes through this. She kind of decides, is she going to do this, is she not? People come along and say, you should do, you need to, you haven't done anything for a while, and then if this is going to actually happen, then filming will be dead and actors will be out of work anyway. She then decides she's going to do that, and then sort of agrees to go ahead with it and does the scanning procedure, I think. Cut to 20 years later, the end of this contract for the 20 years of digital usage. And then the film takes a really weird turn and becomes this animated thing where the evolution of what the studios are now able to do is that they can create a virtual world, basically, where you take a little tablet, a little concoction of liquid that then changes your view and makes everything appear as if it's an animation, and you then live your life out in an animation, which is all weird and zany and all these things going on among all these other people who are there. Everything is sort of this lived out in this imagination world, because the real world has become so horrible, such a terrible place to live. And it's basically through this is sort of the last hour of a 2-hour film. And this is the weird thing about it, is that the first hour of it, with the whole thing of the potential, do you or do you not, trade over your visual image to this and do this as an actress, raises some really interesting points about the whole thing of acting and the actors and the industry of filmmaking about that, and has some great performance in it from Robin Wright and Harvey Keitel amongst others in this as it goes on. And you then have as well this great sequence where she is trying to give a performance and struggling to give the right performance that they want, and Harvey Keitel's character talks to her over the speaker and evokes these emotional responses from her that he's talking to about things that happen in her life and stuff, and making her be unhappy or be happy or joyous or something like that to get the right response from her. All of that is absolutely brilliant. It's got some moments in it that are genuinely quite sort of took me aback a bit, and some nice comments on society as well. Then it goes to this second half with animation and kind of goes all Roger Rabbit, Cool World sort of thing, and just completely falls over itself. It's trying to do something different about society, but it's kind of trying to do something that doesn't have any real connection to the first half of the film. Even though you have Robin Wright's character in it for the still second half of the film and the animation, it feels so detached from what there has been before it up to that point, that you kind of literally go, hang on a minute, did I miss something here? I mean, it says on it jumped ahead 20 years in time, but you feel as if there's been a complete change, not just in the world, but of everything, and it doesn't feel as if it's the same film. It's completely different. It feels very schizophrenic, and you kind of end up, because of that, losing track of where it's going, which isn't even easy to follow because it's all animated and it's crazy. And because of that, it's just a complete mess. The first half, brilliant. Second half, I honestly could not tell you what happened because I got completely lost in it. And by the end, I just sat there kind of scratching my head thinking, what was that last hour?
Have you seen Ari Folman's previous film, Waltzing with Bashir?
No, I haven't.
It was a documentary that he made, but he decided to do it animated as well about war. And that is a really powerful documentary. And unfortunately, it sounds like it's not... The animation part is not as strong as Waltzing with Bashir.
No, it's kind of like the animation is... It seems more like maybe... Because it's based on a book, so I don't know how accurately and how much it's done based on the book, what there is in the book, and how it does this animation thing in the book, if it even does that or not. But it feels like maybe the book doesn't have anything about the animation stuff, and it feels like the animation stuff is then the director kind of pushing his own view of what the story should be from then point onwards, and not going with the story that there was originally. So it's such a detachment from what there was in the first hour that it honestly doesn't feel like the same film. It feels like something else completely different, and it's so disjarring that I honestly didn't know what was going on at points.
That's unfortunate because I did really like Waltzing with Bashir as well, and I was slightly interested in this very strange movie. But
yeah, I'd say to have a look at it and see what you think, but I think you'll probably find, especially the last hour, you don't like. If the first hour is great, it's just that last hour when it does the animation thing that it just loses itself, and it completely lost me at parts.
Oh well.
Yep. That's it for the cinema release part of the show. Stick around after this break and we'll be back with a look at the latest home releases on DVD and Blu-ray. We'll be back in just a moment.
From page to screen.
So they have 9 times out of 10 they have to send it back to you unopened or just throw it in the garbage can.
Things don't always look exactly as we envision our life to look. But sometimes it works out and turns out even better.
Gregor Fisher, his bacon number is 2 because he was appeared with January Jones in Love Actually, and January Jones and Kevin Bacon appeared in X-Men First Class together.
I've got to say, the very Harold and Kumar 3D Christmas now, that just makes me want to rush out.
It's about the acting, about the writing. That's really what theatre is for me.
Probably had more names than Prince or whatever. Never mind, there's a joke for the oldies. It'd be like, who's Prince? Who's he? I'd just like to see Mr. Freeze hiring his bad guys going, right, okay, so you're a psycho, right, can you ice skate? Head over to iTunes, Spreaker and Stitcher and put in the search box From Page to Screen.
Right, welcome back to this week's Monday Movie Show. You're into the home release section of the show where we'll look at the Blu-rays and DVDs out this week. So we are reviewing these films.
We have Pierce Brosnan and Emma Thompson in The Love Punch. We have Marvel returning with Captain America: The Winter Soldier. We have Colin Firth in A New York Winter's Tale. We have The Last Days on Mars, an Australian film called Tracks, horror in The Quiet Ones, a drama in Killing Season. And then we have a couple of other films with Lizzie Borden Took an Axe and The Flowers of War.
Yeah, on top of that we have our TV movie of the week, and you will also find out what we thought of our movie of the week is. There's a load of films to choose from, so it'll be an interesting choice. But let's kick things off with the Blu-ray and DVD top 10.
Starting at number 10 with Starred Up.
Yeah, it's a brutal British prison drama starring Jack O'Connell. Really good actor, actually. Yeah, coming from the Skins camp of acting, and he's shown that he can handle very tough and meaty roles, and that's the case with his character in this one. It's quite violent in its words. There are some quite graphic scenes in the film as well, but it's very well acted and a very good film.
At number 9 is a new entry for Calvary.
Yeah, I didn't like it as much as you did. I just thought that all the characters on the island itself was very despicable. Brendan Gleeson is really, really good as the priest in it, but the kind of stuff that gets done to him on a person who's only got supposedly 7 days to live is ridiculously repulsive, and I would have gone away from that little town straight away rather than staying there. I would not have had the patience.
Number 8 is Need for Speed.
Feels like a video game, watches like a video game. It is like watching your best friend play a video game. That's the best way to explain it. It's based on Need for Speed The Run and Need for Speed Most Wanted in the series of the Need for Speed video games, but it's not too bad. It's got a few decent little practical action set pieces, but it's way too long, and it falls under, unfortunately, that video game category where it's a bit plodding.
Noah is at number 7.
Bad, 35 minutes opening. After that, it becomes pretty decent. When they get onto the arc, that's when the film itself opens and becomes more interesting.
New entry at number 6 for Muppets Most Wanted.
Yeah, didn't do as good as we thought it would, which it proves it, because the first Muppets in the reboot series was brilliant. It was really funny. The musical numbers were really entertaining. The film itself was just nice to see Kermit and all the gang back together in a movie that was harkened back to Muppets' previous brilliant films, so like A Muppet's Christmas Carol, etc. This is just boring. The musical numbers aren't entertaining as well. When you've got Ricky Gervais in a film, you know there's something seriously bad going to happen. And I'm definitely not reviewing the David Brent movie when that comes out, because I hate Ricky Gervais as it is, and seeing him in this, it just, yeah.
I haven't even watched The Office, so I'm not going to see it either. Still hanging around after 20 weeks since it's released. At number 5 is Frozen.
20 weeks is a lot, and it's still going to be in there. It's probably going to be in there until Christmas, where it'll be the new number 1 at Christmas, because you know it's going to sell big at Christmas as well.
I'd laugh if that happened. I generally would. And number 4 is the Lego Movie.
Yeah, it's a brilliantly entertaining film. There's another Lego movie coming out. There's 2 getting released in 2017. There's an Ninjago movie, which is a spin-off from the Legos. It's getting released next year, so for the Lego series, it really does fall under its slogan. Everything is awesome in the realm of Lego.
Yeah, more animated films at Rio, with Rio 2 at number 3.
Yeah, Rio 2. The animation is really nice to look at. The storyline is very basic and boring.
New entry at number 2 for the Raid 2.
Yeah, brutal. It's really brutal. It's got some of the best action set pieces ever created, some of the best martial arts set pieces ever seen on film, in my opinion. That scene inside the kitchen of a restaurant is just jaw-dropping. And this is coming from a person who I would say martial art movies are my least favourite genre, more so than romantic comedies. And so this film is too long, so I agree with you on that front, and the fact that it is too long, but it is still really brilliant.
And I'm really happy about the number 1 movie, new entry for Divergent.
I still prefer The Hunger Games over Divergent, but this is not one of those weak, ugly sisters kind of films, because there was a lot of those movies released after The Hunger Games, which included Mortal Instruments, City of Bones. What was the other one as well?
Beautiful Creatures.
Beautiful Creatures, which was weak also. So it was nice to actually see a movie which got the tone of The Hunger Games, but it being slightly different from it. Even though it's got elements which matches up to The Hunger Games, it is still its own kind of film. And Shailene Woodley is a really good actress, and she was brilliant in The Fault in Our Stars, and she's really good in this as well. And so high hopes for her in the future. I really do hope she doesn't do a Jennifer Lawrence and do really terrible movies that Jennifer Lawrence has done. She has been in a couple of good films, but I'm hoping that Shailene Woodley doesn't do that. Agreed?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have so much of a problem with Jennifer Lawrence's films, but yeah.
Yeah, the horror film that she did, House at the End of the Street.
Yeah, that wasn't great, but did she not do that sort of before a lot of the other things, before Hunger Games?
No, she did it after the Hunger Games, House at the End of the Street, so yeah. Let's get into our Blu-ray and DVD releases.
Yeah, Love Punch, which is written and directed by Joel Hopkins, has Pierce Brosnan and Emma Thompson playing a couple who are now divorced. Things sort of seem to be going all right for them, even with their sort of being divorced. They're happily sort of getting on with each other. They have a teen daughter who's now heading off to college, and things seem to be going fine, except for the fact that when Richard, Pierce Brosnan's character, turns up to work, he finds the office all closed and everyone's standing outside, and it turns out that the company has basically gone into receivership, and that includes everyone's pensions, which he kind of was telling them, we should get this sorted out and get it into the company. So he decides he's going to go along and speaks to his ex-wife Kate, played by Emma Thompson again, speaks to her. They talk about the whole thing of what's going on, so they decide they're going to go and try and find out what happened and speak to the person who runs and has bought over the company. But it turns out the person who does that is actually absconded away and is in Paris in France. So of course what they do, they decide they're going to go out there and try and find him and see what's going on, so they can sort of get everything sorted out and get theirs and everyone else's money back. Here's a clip.
Yep, your bag.
Yeah, so did you.
Yeah, they've lasted quite well, actually.
Better than us.
Well, they came with a guarantee.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
What? We'd like 2 rooms.
Passports, please.
There you go.
Mrs. Jones.
Well,
and Mr. Jones.
Yes.
And you want 2 rooms?
Yes.
You are brother and sister?
No.
Une suite, peut-être?
No.
Next to each other?
Not necessary. Really, we're divorced. I kept his name.
Oh, but you kept his name.
Yes.
Yeah, you did, didn't you?
Yes, because it's been mine for some time and my kids have. It's no biggie.
And you are holidaying together to see if perhaps the flame still burns.
Yes. Yeah,
No,
why
not
not?
at all. So not. The flame is out.
Oh.
Snuffed.
No.
Gone.
We are in Paris.
When they're there, they then meet up with a couple who they know who think they're sort of back together as well, and it's played by Timothy Spall and Celia Emery, and they end up then finding out about this whole thing of what this person who bought over the company has done, is basically done it to strip the company of assets and doesn't care about everyone's monies and everyone's pensions. So they decide they're going to break in and steal this big diamond that he has, and decide to get their friends help to join them. And that's where it gets even more ludicrously and kind of loses you at any point, because of the fact that this is a kind of comedy thing that you would see in the 80s with someone like Steve Martin playing it, who's really, really good at playing that kind of that comedic role. Here, though, you have Pierce Brosnan and Emma Thompson, who are good, strong actors, but they're not really strong comedic actors in that sense. They can do comedy and things when they're doing a drama and it's funny. When they're doing something that's laugh out loud, ridiculously stupid funny, it doesn't work, though. They are completely miscast in this film, and the film really doesn't know how to handle them. And it's horrible. It really is such cringe-inducing stuff. There are moments in it where you genuinely kind of there, and I honestly felt sorry for Pierce Brosnan and for Emma Thompson to see them come along and do this. I mean, Timothy Spall and Celia Emery, they're really good because they're subsequent characters, they're background characters, and they have a couple of good lines. Timothy Spall has a really good thing altogether of remembering things that happened in the war and stuff, and it's humorous because of the fact that he's a background character. But it's kind of, he's the best thing about it. It's just honestly embarrassing for Pierce Brosnan and Emma Thompson. I honestly don't know how they did this. It just, honestly, I'm lost.
Okay. Well, you stay lost for a couple of minutes, and I will be the found one and do Captain America, the Winter Soldier.
Could you rephrase that?
No, I'll just leave it at that, because my mind is not in the gutter at the moment. So it's Captain America, the Winter Soldier. It's directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, and obviously it's the sequel to the previous Captain America film. Steve Rogers is still coming to terms with normal life, with life set into present day, with technology. He goes on a jog at the start of the film itself, and that is actually a really funny joke, a funny opening to the movie, where you see him just constantly lap somebody who is also out there, who's played by Anthony Mackie, who plays Sam Wilson, and he just makes a little quip every single time he goes past him. Just to make sure that he's actually doing what he is doing, but he's still coming to terms with what's happening. He teams up with Scarlett Johansson's character, who plays Black Widow, or Romanoff, to try and rescue these hostages who's on a SHIELD ship. It's a ship that's owned by SHIELD. These hostages have been taken because of the secrets on the ship, and so a strike force is sent in to try and rescue these hostages. Back on dry land, Nick Fury has gone to visit Robert Redford's character, who's sort of like higher up now in SHIELD, and try to explain to him that this project that they're trying to get off the ground, which is Project Insight, which involves these huge, massive helicopter carriers being sent up into the air so they can track down criminals before crime can actually properly fully happen. might need a few tweakings here and there, and the fact that he wants to delay the release of these. However, you can sense that something is not going right because Nick Fury is attacked on his way back home, and he's attacked by these police officers, and this unknown assailant attacks him. He manages to find his way into Captain America's apartment where he discovers him there, and unfortunately for Nick Fury, he gets shot, which forces Captain America to go up and speak to Robert Redford's character, who plays Alexander Pierce, and try to get help. And unfortunately for Captain America, he's attacked when he tries to leave the building, and he's told that he's just a bad guy. He's going up against S.H.I.E.L.D. and the fact that he needs to be stopped. And so he teams up with Romanoff, and he's a clip which sets up where they need to go to try and find clues about what's going on.
Drive is a level 6 homing program, so as soon as we boot up, S.H.I.E.L.D. will know exactly where we are.
How much time will we have?
About 9 minutes from now. This drive is protected by some sort of AI. It keeps rewriting itself to counter my commands.
Can you override it?
The person who developed this is slightly smarter than me. Slightly. I'm gonna try running a tracer. This is a program that S.H.I.E.L.D. developed to track hostile malware, so if we can't read the file, maybe we can find out where it came from.
Can I help you guys with anything?
Oh, no, my fiance was just helping me with some honeymoon destinations.
Right. We're getting married.
Congratulations. Where are you guys thinking about going?
New Jersey.
Huh. I have the exact same glasses.
Wow, you two are practically twins.
Yeah, I wish. Specimen. If you guys need anything, I've been Aaron.
Thank you.
Give me a floor rundown.
Negative on 3.
You said 9 minutes. Come on.
Shh, relax. Got it. You know it?
I used to. Let's go.
So they ultimately dig up secrets about Project Insight and find what the true purpose is of it. And unfortunately for them, it involves an evil presence which was present in the first film. Captain America the Winter Soldier, is it better than the first one? Yes. Is it the best Marvel film? No.
Yes.
No. Because that goes to Guardians of the Galaxy. I rewatched Captain America.
Let me ask this then. Was it the best film before Guardians of the Galaxy came out?
No, because Avengers is. I watched this for a second time today because I've only previously seen it once, and I watched it because I knew that I was going to be doing the review of it, and because Andy's the one who's in charge of superhero movies on their first run in the cinema. And so I was watching the film, and I stick by my original thoughts of the film. It's very well constructed. It has a very good narrative throughout the film. Unlike with previous Marvel films, I felt that they were slightly disjointed up until Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. I just felt like there was a good set piece at the start, a middle section which was lacking and boring and sagging, and then the end they needed to actually put on the obvious big action explosive set piece. With this movie though, it seems that the Russo brothers have got the tone and the pacing of the film right, because there's some proper character development in between the action set pieces, and those set pieces are really well handled, especially the chase scene which involves Nick Fury. Is very well done because it could have been overly CGI'd, that scene, and it isn't. It feels like you're watching a car chase movie rather than watching a Marvel film. So it felt different at that point. Yeah, you've got the very typical Marvel things in it because I would guess at a Marvel meeting when they're trying to come up with ideas for a film, they've got the huge massive checklist and go, well, that was in a previous Marvel film, we've got to have it in this one, just to make it feel like it belongs to the series leading up to the next Avengers film, Ages of Ultron. So it's got that typical thing, but in this movie it just never feels like it's falling into the problematic territories of, say, Iron Man 3 or Thor. So it doesn't do that. It is the third best Marvel film in my opinion, because the best is Guardians of the Galaxy by a mile, because I love that movie. And I still think Avengers is strong, even though if you look at it now, you can see where the seams are, the cracks are. But in this one, Chris Evans has got his iconic character. This is going to follow him now. After he leaves the Captain America sort of like outfit to somebody else, he will be known as Captain America. And well done for him for that, because he needed a bit of acknowledgement, and he's got a good character there. And it is a really entertaining film, but it has got some proper heart to it, and there's got a proper flow to it. It's the third best Marvel film. It's very enjoyable.
I have to agree with you, except the fact that I think for me, it's actually Marvel's best film, because it just feels like it's very, very relative to the world, the way it is. And I'm not going to say in what way, because that would be a spoiler, but I think it's very, very apt for what it says in the film and how it connects with the real world, even though it's based on a comic book and it's in a film. So I found it to be a lot more kind of profound, but just very much more relatable.
I just know I think Guardians of the Galaxy is the better film because the fact that it gets practically everything right. It gets the humour right, it gets the drama right, it gets the character development right, it gets everything right. And this is, with Guardians of the Galaxy, it's the first one, and that's normally a set-up movie, and it set up the characters brilliantly, unlike with the previous first wave of Avengers films. It didn't do that. This one, with Captain America the Winter Soldier, I'm glad it didn't try to do that with a few characters to try and fully introduce them, because they could have done that with it. They could have done it with Anthony Mackie's character, with Falcon, set him up properly, but they didn't fall into that trap. And so I'm glad they didn't do that. And it's strong. Those three films for me, Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, and Captain America the Winter Soldier, gives me hope for superhero films, because I wasn't much of a fan of them, because I was bored of them. And those three films for me are a really strong triple bill.
Okay, well, I'll go on to the next film, which is A New York Winter's Tale. You have in this movie, written and directed by Akiva Goldsman, who's based it in part on a novel by Mark Helprin. The film stars Colin Farrell as Peter Lake, who is a man who is in sort of the New York of the 1930s, I believe it is. And things are sort of not going so well for him as we're introduced. He's being chased by a group who are after him because he's tried to sort of leave a group of, kind of like a group of thieves that are led by a man named Pearly, played by Russell Crowe. The thing is that there seems to be this sort of weird thing going on around him. There are these weird, amazing things happening, such as that he runs into this horse that ends up sort of helping him escape. He's sort of about to try and leave town, leave the city of New York where it's set, and try and leave that to get away from Pearly and his men. But then he sees sort of this last place to break into this, as he sees his family leaving this house, not realising that there's been a young girl left in there who is basically living in there, and she's sort of been left there because of the fact that she is essentially ill and dying of what was consumption at the time. So he breaks in there, thinking he's going to sort of get one last score of sort of valuables that he can take with him for money before leaving, but then ends up accidentally running into this character of Beverly. Here's a clip.
I'm Peter Lake.
And where are you from, Peter Lake?
A boat.
A boat?
Yeah. I never knew my parents' boat washed up the shore in Brooklyn. So I was told.
And you steal things?
I do steal things, yeah, from time to time. It wasn't always that way, though. I always wanted to be a mechanic. You know, I always had a knack for fixing things. Getting to the insides of things.
Like safes?
Well, that's how it ended up, anyways. Lately, I've been having a bit of a disagreement with an old boss.
I should imagine disputes in your line of work are hard to settle.
Challenging, yeah.
What's the best thing you've ever stolen?
I'm beginning to think I haven't stolen it yet.
Aren't you the charmer?
So then, after that, there is also this thing that the story then goes to a small sort of lake house where she and her family are staying sort of for the summer. Peter and her kind of fall in love. And then this thing happens that the movie then kind of is jumping between then and present day. where Peter is found and basically not having aged, but no memory of who he is and what's going on. And there's also this thing of that Pearlie is still there and hasn't aged because he is something else as well. And there's this sort of weird thing going on of that Peter meets a character played by Jennifer Connelly, who starts to investigate who he is and starts to then discover who he is and figure out what's going on, because the things obviously don't make sense when he sees himself in a newspaper clipping from the 1930s. And I don't want to go into it any more than that because there are some twists and turns and things that happen and such, and I don't want to spoil them. But it gets very, very weird and very, very odd because of the fact that this is basically a fairy tale made big and real life on the big screen, and it's the kind of thing that likes of M. Night Shyamalan would make, but I don't think anywhere near as bad as his recent stuff has been. I think it's more like his original stuff. It's very, very weird. It's going to be very difficult for some people to take it, but I think it's actually a wonderful and really, it's one of those films that has this charming quality to it, even though there are things that are back crap crazy going on through it that kind of make you go, hey, what? But when you go through it and get to it, and by the end of the film, I honestly found myself really charmed by it and really enjoyed it, and I found myself kind of falling in love with the story because it is kind of this weird fairy tale love story. And honestly, I've not seen anything that I can think of quite like it, except for since the likes of The Princess Bride. It's not anywhere near that classic and good, but it's the same kind of vein that I found in it, and I found myself feeling that same kind of wondrous about it.
Okay, right. Next up is The Last Years on Mars. It's directed by Ruari Robinson. Ruari. That's a horrible name.
How do you spell it?
Rueiri.
I'm not even going to try and pronounce it.
Ruari Robinson. Hate that person now. Then I really hope I don't get his next film. But it stars Liev Schreiber. Too many. Just imagine Jonathan Ross doing that though. Ruari Robinson. It's sorry.
I can imagine him doing Liev Schreiber.
Yeah, Mr. Liev Schreiber. Sorry, this isn't a Mick take show. It's set on the last years on Mars, or the first manned mission to Mars itself, and a crew of this ship called the Tantalus have got set up base, and they've managed to find this discovery, this fossilized bacterial life form of some kind. However, one of the members of the crew decides to think, yeah, we need to explore this more so than what's gone on, and so he decides to man an unauthorized mission to trek out to where they originally found this fossilized stuff and try to gather some together so they can examine it more so. Unfortunately, the bed of area where they find it crumbles beneath his feet, and he gets sucked down into this huge massive crevice, and the crew of the Tantalus have to try and rescue him, but they discover that something is not right. A parasitic thing has managed to get into him, is not just infecting him, but is managed to infect the rest of the crew as well, and so it's just a bit of fight of survival. The thing with The Last Years on Mars is it got a theatrical release, and then obviously now it's out on Blu-ray and DVD. It does feel like a direct-to-DVD movie. It was just strange that it did get a theatrical release. It's a small science fiction film, and it's not bad, but it's not that good neither. It just falls into that horrible area of being very average. It's one of those, I hate that area because it's normally the area where you forget movies rather than find parts of it interesting or whatever. The characters are just very normal, very mundane characters which you normally expect in this kind of film. It has a bit of a ridiculous ending the way it plays out, but the film itself is just pretty average at best.
Yeah, I wouldn't even be that generous, to be honest. I thought it was pretty bad. I'll go on to Tracks next, which is directed by John Caron. It's based on the true events and the character of Robin Davidson, the real person who was played in the film by Mia Wasikowska, who in the 1970s decided that she was going to trek across Australia using nothing but just walking along with some camels that she had. It is based on true story, and so it's a whole thing of this true story of this woman that did this and walked across there, and just all about the difficulties and the hardship she had basically trying to get everything sorted out and being able to raise finance for it and such, and then to actually go on the trip, and had this sort of deal that she did make with National Geographic, I think it was, because of the fact of that she was trying to get funding and had to make some concessions to have, such as meeting up with someone, with a cameraman along the way to take pictures of her and be able to sort of report the story, as much as she didn't really want to. I'm not going to play a clip because we're sort of running on time with it, but the thing with it is that it's a genuinely enjoyable film. It is really well put together. It's nicely directed. It does have these long moments of just the character out in the desert, walking along or being sort of confused at certain points, and walking and sort of just standing there in amongst these quite hauntingly beautiful shots of the desert and the outback, and really has a lot of these moments that are genuinely impressive to look at. I would say though that it doesn't need to be as long as it is. It's 112 minutes, so it could be a little bit shorter and doesn't need to drag out some of the things it was, but definitely a better Australian film than the Australian film The Rover, which was reviewed in the cinema section. Enjoyable, good performance from Mia Wasikowska, who holds the screen for most of the time, and also a good performance from the dog, which is the only sort of companion that she has on the screen for most of the film. So a really good effort, enjoyable and nicely done.
Stan was just reading a quick piece of news there that Josh Boone, who directed The Fault in Our Stars, is in early talks to write and direct Anne Rice's latest film, The Stat.
Ah, okay.
Should be interesting.
I've not seen The Fault in Our Stars, so I can't comment on his directing skills, but that'd be interesting. I think the right kind of thing, a drama.
Yeah. Next up is The Quiet Ones. It's the latest film from Hammer after they came back by their first film was The Resident, and then they've done a few other films after that. And this is directed by John Pogue, and it's set in the 1970s, and it centers around a professor who's played by Jared Harris, he looks into paranormal activity, specifically people who are possessed, and tries to prove that it's fake, that what is actually happening is completely erroneous. And he at the moment, while he's teaching this group of students, he's got an experiment going on where he's trying to find a cure for people who think that they are possessed, and this girl especially is supposedly possessed, and he's trying to help her out. However, when the university find out what he's doing, they cancel his budget. They cancel all of his money that he's using to do these experiments, and so ultimately he has to move off the campus. He gets the help from a few students, one who films everything, takes him to this abandoned house to try and find a cure for her. However, things go bad. Now, again, we're not playing the clip, just throwing it out the window because we don't have enough time. The thing with The Quiet Ones is Jared Harris is an actor who can embody a character really well, and the character that he plays in this film is very stereotypical, and he does a good job of it. The film itself has a few little moments here and there where you've got the typical scares, but that's about it, to be honest. It's not very inventive the way it tries to actually flow along the film. The standout of the movie itself is Olivia Cooke, who plays Jane Harper, who's the one who is possessed. She's really good in the movie. She has to have a character where there's a lot of turmoil with her, because when you find out about her past and what's really happened with her, you need somebody who can handle that kind of character, and she does brilliantly with the character. And so her character is strong and it outshines everybody else in the film. You've got the very stereotypical characters, and the fact that they are really annoying, the ditzy blonde, the two people who seem to have sex with each other in the film, and it is just too ticky box kind of thing, but it's not bad for what it is. It's not Hammer at its best, because The Resident is, when they came back with a bit of a whimper, and then they did The Woman in Black, which is really good, so it's not up to that level there, but it's a decent watch. And sorry for the bang.
Just going to go into the last few films we've got, because we are running quick on time. So quickly on The Killing Season, which is a small film directed by Mark Steven Johnson. It stars Robert De Niro and John Travolta as two soldiers who Robert De Niro plays an American and John Travolta plays a Syrian soldier who are both in the Bosnian War in the 90s, set present day that the two of them meet through John Travolta's character having tracked down Robert De Niro's character. The two of them meet, and they sort of become friends for momentarily, and then he reveals the reason why he's there, and the two of them end up then sort of having to confront each other and thriller basically element of the two of them fighting against each other and then dealing with that. It's very, very sort of run of the mill, but it does have this sort of thing of it's not brilliant, but enjoyable and entertaining, and especially more so than some of their more cinematic releases that have been recently. It's not gonna win any awards, and it shouldn't. I mean, I can see why it's maybe gone straight to video because of the fact that it's a small thing and it's not a brilliant film, but it's definitely worth a check if you like either the actors and you want to see them in something that's gonna possibly fill in 90 minutes. It's not a great film, it's not a bad film, it's just okay, and sometimes that's just enough.
Yeah, now it's time to get into the basement part of the show. Normally it's me who doing the last review for the basement part of the show, but Andrew's got the final film of this week. But yeah, this is definitely bottom of the barrel kind of stuff. It's Lizzie Borden Took an Axe, and it's a made-for-TV movie. It was released in America on TV. We're getting a DVD release. Don't know why. It stars Christina Ricci, and it's set during 1892, and it does centre around the true story of Lizzie Borden, who supposedly was... She didn't like a family, to be honest. She was a ruthless kind of character who all she wanted to do was drink and just go out with friends. She stole a lot. And supposedly she flipped out and killed her father with an axe 11 times, chopped into his face, did exactly the same with his stepmother, and it's just about them trying to prove that Lizzie did it, and Lizzie trying to prove to people that she didn't. You can definitely tell this is made for TV because it is badly made. It's badly acted, really, really badly acted. When it does constantly hark on that she did kill her father by hitting him in the face 11 times with an axe, when you do see the father's face, you think he's only been hit in the face about twice with a rubber axe, because there's just a slight little indent, and if somebody's been hit in the face even about 5 times with an axe, you're just going to find a pile of mush, not a body still there with a head still on its shoulders and just a tiny little indent in the face. The film itself is terrible. You can definitely tell it's made for TV. Christina Ricci, I love it when she's playing malevolent characters, when she's got that evil look on her face. She suits it brilliantly. Yeah, she just looks like a porcelain doll, like a doll just brought onto the set to just go act, puppet, go and act. And that's all she's brought into, because they wanted a big name in. They thought Christina Ricci is fine, we'll let her play Lizzie Borden. Avoid it, just avoid it.
Okay, the final film is The Flowers of War, which is a Chinese movie, which has been made though, but it has Christian Bale in it, who was actually hired to star in it, sort of to interest the West in the film. It is set in China during the attack by Japan in 1937, who have sort of taken over the country and are going through it with soldiers sort of attacking people and destroying things. Where Christian Bale's character is a man who's just in the country, looking to try and find sort of his way out there safely, ends up finding his way into a church, which is a sort of a commune for a whole group of these young girls that are staying there, and he ends up sort of befriending them and taking the appearance of the church's priest, who is no longer there. He wears the church's the church's clothing, and declares to the soldiers that he is the priest, in order to keep these girls safe and protected from them being sort of attacked and raped. And the thing is that it's a very well acted film. Christian Bale is on fantastic form in the film. It's very well acted. It's very harrowing at certain parts. It's quite dark and sort of violent, and shows this whole thing of the true atrocities of war. It does have a good scale to it and a good scope to it. The only thing I would say is a big problem for it is that because it's in English and Chinese, which isn't a problem. Don't have a problem with subtitles. Some people will have, but it's a good mix of the two. But the problem with the film is that it's 2 hours and 26 minutes long. It's far too long. It really needs to be a good half hour shorter. It does drag out certain elements and certain things. I wish it was under 2 hours long, because it would make it such a much more better flowing film, I think. It's not bad. It's not fantastic, but it is good. It's above average, and if you like sort of foreign films as well, and you want to see it, especially because Christian Bale's in there speaking English for his part, and the whole majority of the film is very, very well handled, then I would say definitely give it a shot. It's definitely worth a look.
Right, that's it for the new releases this week. TV movie of the week.
I have gone for Zombieland, which is on Friday the 22nd of August at 9 p.m. So obviously part of their Fright Fest, but it's not really a horror film, it's a comedy, and I love it for that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, if you're well into your horror films, the next couple of weeks, to be honest, is a brilliant time. It is August. You would think that it's October, and why they don't decide to do this kind of stuff in October is beyond me, but Film 4 showing a lot of horror films and some really good ones, including films like Vinyan, which is a movie that very few people have seen, but it's on in the early hours of the morning on Film 4 during the week, and it's a really good, creepy film. But the one I've chosen is The Innkeepers. It's Ty West. He's a master of a person who's able to build up tension and then the tension actually paying off. And so The Innkeepers was the second film after he did The House of the Devil, which I really like, The House of the Devil. But I think Innkeepers is slightly more stronger, and it's on Film 4 on Thursday the 21st at 10:55 p.m. So again, with horror, if you love that kind of stuff, and I know a certain person in the live chat there likes horror films, so I'm guessing she's be tuned into Film 4 over the next couple of weeks, and you're going to hate that. See numerous horror films, but yeah, it's a horror fan's delight. Right, that's it for this week's show. Movie of the week.
See, I've got such a really I think I got quite the rotten end of the stick this week. Probably for a change, but I mean, I'd have to say very weakly Hector and the Search for Happiness, but really not.
Yeah, for me, Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yeah, definitely that on DVD and Blu-ray.
It's not just down to what we reviewed. You've seen Expendables 3, etc. And I knew you wouldn't have made that movie of the week, but I think
I'm not going to say that, and it's certainly not The Love Punch. Just no.
I think Captain America: The Winter Soldier is the strongest out of the release this week on home release and cinema wise.
Yeah,
it is by far the stronger one.
Yeah.
Right, so that's it for this week's show. Make sure you check out the website, mondaymovieshow.co.uk. You can also get us on Facebook, facebook.com/mondaymovieshow, Twitter, @mondaymovieshow. I'm at Cryptic Tadpole, Andrew's at EHDVD. You're not that much on Twitter, to be honest, more so on Facebook. But you can check them out.
But I do check it.
Yeah, you can check us both out on Facebook as well. Email us, mondaymovieshow@yahoo.com. Give us your feedback. Give us your feedback also on the Spreaker's page. You can leave comments on there and we'll read them. And if there's anything interesting, we might read them out on next week's show. We will be back same time next Monday, which is surprising again, 2 weeks in a row. Maybe, like I said at the start of this week's show, we might make it 3 weeks in a row. Chances of that happening, you never know. Well, we've got releases including Deliver Us From Evil, Into the Storm, Lucy, Sin City, A Dame to Kill, Transcendence, Lock. So it's a pretty decently strong show next week. We'll play you out with a clip from
$1 Million Arm.
Yeah, so I'm glad you knew that because I completely forgot what it was.
Yeah.
So we'll play you out with
a new Disney one sort of thing. That's based on I think it's based on a true story.
So we'll play you out with that, and we'll be back same time next Monday. Goodbye.
Bye bye.
All right, go ahead. Say it.
Sir, we need to know when you're going to marry Miss Brenda.
Yes.
No, guys, this is not what you ask in America.
What do you ask?
You would say, how far did you get with Miss Brenda?
You travel with her?
No. It's not like distance. It's like physically. Like, did you kiss her? That kind of thing.
Huh? But that's private, no, sir?
Yes, it is private. Thank you.
I think you should marry Miss Brenda.
Even I also think.
Yes, sir. You're old. You should marry her, start family.
Number one, I am not old.
You're a little bit old.
Hey. Number two, just because I've slept over at her house doesn't mean I have to marry her.
Did you kiss Miss Brenda?
No. She kissed me.
Oh! Oh, Jamie!